true wisdom in our discussions on the balcony on Atlantis is authentic. That it is born again and again fresh. It is not something we repeat because we know it from the books. It is not something that we, feel like an emotion that we want to say it because we want to defend ourselves. These are childish forms of discussions. And Nietzsche, at the end of his life, said or wrote that the thinking so far as it was used is not sufficient. He was talking about a new way of thinking which he called orgiastic thinking. What does it mean? He said, he was talking about Dionysus, and he said people were fighting orgiastically, they were loving orgiastically, they were dreaming, they were making art, creating works of art in an ecstasy. But to think in ecstasy in words was considered crazy, like madman mumbling something. No? Even though in the old times, even in Greece, Hellas, madmen were considered like gods, God sent, no? Because they were talking like nonsense, and they were shouting and gesturing, and the people were thinking, oh, this is a God talking through him. No? Okay. It was a point of truth in it.
And such people, they spread Christianity later.
Yes, but the Christianity, madmen were really mad. No?
But they were mostly Romans inside of Europe. Yeah.
Yes, they were at the end of the Roman Empire. The situation changed completely.
So the majority had always the same view or belief, something like that.
Okay.
If you speak something like Jesus spoke, or they do what he did, then he was some divine. He was God. Like
okay, that. But this is what I'm telling you, that to use this way of arguments today is to remain a child which is 2,000 years old, in between human culture and thinking and knowing, understanding itself has grown. So you must not jump back 2,000 years and start arguing because Jesus said this. No, what is the main idea behind Nietzsche's critique of thinking, analytical thinking in concepts, as it was practiced for 2,000 years by all philosophers, and it is practiced now at the universities and in politics also, is that when a human child is born, it is born to some particular family in a particular country, and it is an animal which does not understand anything. It is helpless. Stop this, please. And it is only hearing sounds and tastes fluids and sees a chaos of colors, and then after a long time of repetition, and it hears the sounds, and the grown-up people, the mother, father, and the friends of them, they all the time make sounds. They give sounds that coming out of them. Later it sees or feels, when it touches mother, when it is speaking, that the sound is coming from the mouth. And then it says, okay, these people are making sounds, and it tries to imitate it, né? And he can do it. The children have the specific face.
Okay.
In language development, this is important. It's not yet, the argument is not yet finished. And then it is called the lullaby phase. The children do like, and later on they learn to condense the sound into short sounds. And they connect the short sound with other perceptions like warm, fluid, sweet, and the sound milk. They point to the same something in the outside world, to the thing milk, okay? And this goes on and on. And like that, a vocabulary is created for everything. And then what is more important, each language has grammar. Each language has sentences. which are connected together, the small sounds, are put one after the another to describe processes, like the ocean is full of sunlight and wind today, is a sentence which says there is a thing like an ocean and it has certain qualities, and the qualities we describe by the words light and wind. And so, or put the cup, Mama says, put the pudding on the table for many months. This sound doesn't mean anything to the child. But after 2 years, it learns to see and to realize that there is a small object, like a cup of pudding. There is a large object, like a table which is flat, and you can perform an action as somebody who can do it, and can take the small object and put it on the plate, on the flatness of the greater object. And this is what we call a structuring of the outside world into definite objects and processes that are, to be done or that are to be observed. And science and philosophy and morals and culture is nothing else than a large inflation of this childish way of structuring the world, because they don't talk about cups, they talk about protons and neutrons, and they don't talk about putting a cup on a table. They talk about bombarding the protons with gamma rays, okay, or putting on a ship equipment and going to the North Pole, or they talk about angels that came down to the earth and
have sex with the women.
And sex with the women. And all the stuff is governed, totally structured by the grammar of your mother tongue, and you can never escape it. And most people simply have no idea about this. This is called, and I majored this at the university, I wrote a big paper about this. This is called the language determination thesis. The grammar of the language completely determines the way of your thinking, because the language has syntax, there is subject, object, and a verb, and a subject has qualities like a noun, like the sea is a noun, and it has qualities like wet, blue, large, stormy, and so on. And this is, you are caught in it, and everything you want to say, basically everything you want to describe and think about will be reduced into these syntactical and grammatical and semiotic, whatever meaning, because these sounds, small sounds, are then collected in books which we call vocabularies, and then there is an explanation in the same language. If you look into a one language dictionary, then it says the sea and is a body of water which covers the greatest part of the planet and is made of a fluid, and so on and so on. If you say, okay, I have an explanation of it, but it uses other words and I don't understand the words. So you say earth. What is earth? You go in the dictionary a few pages back and you find earth is a planet and so covered mostly by sea. Aha! And you connect the word sea and the word earth, and they explain themselves reciprocal. They explain each other. So there is no escape from it. You are not talking about reality, you are talking about words that are explaining each other in the big dictionary. And the most of science and philosophy and politics is nothing else than walking through huge halls of these words that explain each other and not seeing the reality. Just talking and talking and talking about artificial structures that are governed by grammar. That they said, it sounds reasonable, it sounds logical, because the language the politicians use, the sentences they pronounce, and the scientists and the religious and the preachers, they used sentences that sound similar to a sentence, let us go to the sea and swim. Okay, let us drink cup of tea, let us go to the garden and plant some salads. But actually these are completely different words, because these practical sentences really describe that what you do, and immediately after that you do it. Okay, or you did it already, or you describe what we did. We were at the sea, we planted the salads. Whereas the politicians, the philosophers, and the scientists, they mostly stay in this realm of ideas and never come to reality. And if they are angry after some time, because they realize they are talking, nonsense, that they are talking like castles in the sand, in the air, then they invent methods of how to persuade other people that they are talking about reality. In science, it means they fake the experiments. They fake the experiments. In politics, it means they force the people by power of military and police to do what they say is true. Okay, so this
To
is
accept what they say is true.
yeah. Okay,
And
but
to
they
follow
are
that.
all mistaken. This is like crying children. I want to have this, and if the mama doesn't give it, then the child. I want it.
Who, for example, who cares about this? Imagine this circle. In this circle is this world. What you are talking about now.
No. This circle is not this world. This is the idea. You are starting like religious teachers. You invent an idea that the world is a circle, and this is already wrong. The world is not a circle. And if you start to build up other arguments, this is the typical way of ideology. It says, the first sentence, let us think the world is a circle. And if the people do not protest immediately by saying, no, I live, I see every day the gardens and the rocks and the ships and the sea and the birds, and there is no circle. If you don't protest, then you are caught, because afterwards the ideology starts to build other arguments which sound like normal sentences, but they are all bullshit. They are all walking in the castles in the air. They are abstractions that sound like normal sentences.
Who are you and what are you doing in Pavel's body?
What I'm doing. And then there is this technique I have to tell you, because you have to learn it. You have to learn it in a philosophical discussion. If you develop a very serious and logical argument for some time, and the opponent suddenly interrupts you with an absolutely idiotic question from some other realm,
Well, I have to ask you the question.
because you have proved you are not capable of discussion, because you do not follow my argument. If you were a real philosopher, you would say, okay, I accept your argument, and I either have to disprove it by logical thinking, or I have to say I was wrong when I said, let us suppose the world is a circle.
Well, nothing is important now. What I wanted to ask now. Forget about not this circle I mentioned.
Forget about it. No.
Look at now. You mentioned now that you started everything from the moment of the childbirth, how he was educated from the mother and go on. But my philosophy is, let's go backwards forever. Always a child was giving birth. And what? Mankind didn't exist forever. It had their start, right? How mankind emerged. What was before that child? What was before he's conscious? Before he became a conscious? That is the question.
Yeah, that is a question. As I told you, we shall continue the argument, but we shall not forget to say that this is a methodological wrong approach to interrupt a developed argument without ending it, and jumping to something else.
Bob, I want to mention because I want to leave the questions in this machine here to memorize it. You're talking all the time, and I'm listening like to a student.
Yes.
So this is the question: what was before we came here to became like a child, became a human being. We are here,
okay.
And after we are disappeared from this world, we died. Okay. What will happen after us, and what was before our conscious? So we are not. I don't want to be inside of this circle who was teaching us the childhood or the politicians. I want to go out of everything.
Okay.
That is what I
So
want.
this expression, I want to go out of everything, is a proof that this is not a philosophical question.
For you.
It is a religious question. Because you cannot go out of everything. Please stand up and go out of everything. If you show it to me.
You cannot, because you are corrupted in this gravitation world. You cannot go out. This is a prison. We are here.
Okay, you are, and the words you use, corrupt in the material world, prison of the material world, are moral validations. This is a valuing of this something. Yes, it's a religious perspective which sees ideologically from the beginning the world as a prison, as a gravitational prison or whatever, and then it is a religious argument. It's not a philosophical argument.
But what philosophical you were saying about before the birth?
Before the birth?
What will happen?
Well, before the birth, before your birth, there was your father and mother. They were living.
Yes, and continue back until the first man on the earth. How the mankind became mankind? How?
Yes, we know that. As
How?
Philosophers, we have our real theory that before the hominids were there were the apes. Ne? There were the apes, and out of the apes, the first early man developed. And in biocentric phenomenology, we have the...
But that's the theory of Darwin.
No. I talk about now biocentric phenomenology has the idea that what happened as an initiating impulse to make a human being something more than an animal was the ability of his soul. We talked about it yesterday. The ability of the soul to expand to the distance of time and space. Now look at the sheep down there. They are eating again grass, and they look down, and what do they perceive is the green grass. Let us say they have eyes. That eyes are similar to human eyes, so they must see something. Né? So they see the grass. We don't know the color, if it is exactly so green as we see it. And then for a while they taste the grass, and they are hungry. And so this is the small world they have. Okay, their soul, they experience, they feel. If you beat them, okay, they are unhappy in a certain sense. Quotes. They feel pain. So they have an inner world. So we call this inner experience a soul. So all animals have souls. But these souls are, if we imagine them to be like a space, now how large is the soul? So it's small, okay, reduced to the grass and the closest things. But if I look to the horizon, over the sea, I firstly see a long distance, like 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers. Ne? I see to the horizon, and then my soul field, as I experience this beauty of the sun on the sea and the clouds about it, and I feel I like it. Ne? So this is an inner experience. So I must have a soul that is expanding far into the space. Ne? And I can even imagine, because I know geography, that behind the horizon are the pyramids, because this is the direction to Alexandria, to old Alexandria, to modern Egypt, né? And then there is the Valley of the Kings, and there are the pyramids and Cheops pyramids. This is I don't see, but I can imagine it, and I really see the pyramid as I've seen it in the encyclopedia.
Yes, but because you heard for pyramid.
I have seen the films. I have seen the films.
But if you never heard for them, never see them in a film, you will never know that pyramid exists.
Yes,
right?
if I have never heard of them, if I would have never seen them, I would not imagine them. I would not imagine them. But now I can do it. So it proves that my soul can imagine pyramids that are not to be seen. So my soul can expand in time and space, because when I imagine the pyramid, I expand to my memory as I have seen them in the film. No? So this was what happened suddenly, no, not suddenly, gradually with the apes, that some of them were able to sit down.
I want to know what is apes. This is apes. They became from
monkeys.
Monkeys.
The monkeys were a lot of monkeys, and some of them were the chimpanzees, and some of them were whatever in the jungle. And slowly, the brain of the monkeys enlarged. Okay, and then the hominids arose. This is something between monkeys and early man, and we in the biocentric phenomenology have the conviction or the idea, because we see it even now, what differentiates us human beings from animals is the ability to imagine something which is not there and to look far away to the horizon, and this is an ability which differentiates us from animals. No? And so this was the initiating impulse. So before your parents were the grandparents, and you go back and back and back until you come to those early monkeys, no? That were able to expand their soul field into time and space and to...
Okay, we were those monkeys.
Okay.
And what was before those monkeys?
Before those monkeys, the monkeys are mammals, no? And before the monkeys, there were the reptiles, no? And they were for 160 million years, they dominated the planet Earth. 160 million years.
So you want to say everything what was happening before, it goes internal without any stop.
Without any stop, it is a continuum of changing shapes of animals and the abilities of their souls.
So this planet forever existed. Everything here existed.
This planet existed according to the newest astronomy, like 14 billion, which means in German Milliarden. Ne?
Okay, 14 billion.
14 billion circles of the planet around the sun.
And from that moment, the life started. Our species.
No, it took some 4 billion years before, I guess, the first bacteria showed in the ocean.
Now I'm gonna be again so arrogant. Let's go back before that created. Let's go back. What was it?
Why?
Why?
To go back?
Let's go back to think about everything before this started. 14 million and 15 before. What was it?
Yeah, and this is where I have to stop you.
Why?
And say that this, from the point of real philosophy and logical propaedeutics, is a not reasonable question.
How?
Because it is what I told you. I made the introduction. It sounds like a sentence because it has words in it. Please go before the time the earth was there. It is like, please go back to the beach and look if my sunglasses are there.
These
are similar sentences. But the first sentence, to go beyond the time the earth was there, is talking about ideology, about things that are not possible.
No, it's not about ideology. It's about thinking what could be. Ideology is something
This is what we call speculation, and it is open absolutely to any religion, morals, problems, because you actually do not want to find the truth, because it is not possible to find the truth, because we are living now and our instruments of astronomy are simply not capable to be there. We simply see lights of the stars far in the cosmos, and we calculate according to some theory of Einstein and other, how long did it take for the light, suppose the light travels 300,000 kilometers per second. So we say this constellation over there, or the galaxy, is like 10 billion years away from us. No? And this one is 13, and we don't find any other now which would be further than 14 billion light years or whatever.
It's an interesting question, because I asked you and you stopped me
Yeah.
right away. You don't want to even to think about that. Like, run away from that question.
This is
You
like,
don't want to think about that someone
I can
before,
think,
someone was before everything. He created everything, you know, with his work,
yeah,
with his power. You know what I'm talking about already.
Yeah.
You know.
This
Looks
is what
like you're running away from that.
No. This is what I told you yesterday. If you want to have a philosophical discussion, then you have to.
But this is philosophical.
No. This is a religious discussion. What you are talking about.
But religious discussion is some kind of philosophical.
No.
Discussion.
Either you
Even
are
higher.
Either talking. No. Religion is not higher than philosophy.
Not really.
This is your idea, because you want it so.
Idea? I don't have a proof for that.
You did?
I don't have a proof for that.
But you are a religious person. You are a religious person. You believe in your God. And so you will always be forced to say religious questions are more important than scientific questions, because it's the basis of your life. Your life would lose.
Yes, we're gonna die, we're gonna disappear.
Your life would, no, not after death. Now, today, your life would lose a solid basis if you would stop believing in your God. So you will always prefer religion to science. This is logical. That's why Nietzsche says all scientific thinking, even now he is sharper than you, Nietzsche says even science today is continuation of religion, because they have the same language, you see? The scientists today speak the similar language as the priests 1,000 years ago. They use the same grammar of the language. And they will never get away from this grammar, because they just have to use the language they have to think. Thinking is using words. If you think, you are talking silently in your head with yourself. So you are using the language your mother and father gave you. And this is a limited perspective, because if you would be talking like Hopi Indians in North America, if you would be talking and thinking like Chinese.
Okay, sorry for interrupting. Then Thomas, my friend, he believes in nature. He says everything is nature, but you are not like that. Nature
you see again, I have to point this out, because this is not only for you, this is for all young people who are searching for.
But you are not like that.
Wisdom. You have a second proof of this method of religious people when they talk with scientific people or philosophical people. They simply do not follow the argument to the end, because it is dangerous for them. They want to evade the logic of the argument, and they jump suddenly to completely different questions, like he stops my deep philosophy about language, grammar, science and the limits of religion because of the language and limits of science, by a sudden question, well, my friend Thomas believes in nature. I mean, if it was at the university, you would be thrown out for this. They will, I mean, you would not get in.
I want to say that many people, they're inventing their own beliefs. Suicide.
I mean, if you would go to a university, in my proper sense, it was a quality university, and you would apply to study. Okay, so some philosopher would talk with you. What do you think about the world? And then you would argument like this.
They would throw me out.
And he would say, well, I mean, you first have to go to the course of logical propaedeutics for 1 year. You have to learn how to think. You cannot do philosophy now, like you want to learn tennis. Then first you have to learn how to run and how to turn around your body and how to raise your hands. You cannot just come like a baby to a tennis court. And I would say, well, I want to learn Roger Federer forehand. And the teacher would say, well, impossible. You have to go home and go for 10 years to gymnastics. No? And then come again, we shall see. Okay, so this is it.
10 years.
Okay? And
10 years, man lost his life for that.
Okay.
Lost his time.
And if we say, okay, the questions are religious questions, no? Then we can say, good, we stop talking philosophy and we talk religious theory. Okay, this is a discipline also, which is logical and scientific, but it has to be like science. And then we say, what was there before the earth was there is a religious question. It can be also a scientific question. Today, the scientists say,
but
well,
it is a question still.
There was, some of the scientists today would say, there was dust, there was a whirlwind of particles that were circling around the sun, because the sun was there before the earth, okay, before the planets. No? The sun was a huge ball of matter that was burning, you know, and had huge gravitation, and around there were billions and billions of dust particles that were circling around, and they slowly attracted the bigger ones.
Can you check? Sorry, can you check your gerät?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay, sorry.
They can. The one particle was slightly bigger than the other one, dust particle, so they pulled together, and over millions of years, or millions of time units, because there were no years at that time. It was only circling around the sun, and then they coagulated into huge balls, and after millions of years the planets were created. I mean, not created, they came into being, because there was nobody who organized this. This is what you want to ask for. There was no metaphysical being, which some people call God, that would plan this and organize this.
God is English word, it's only invented.
It is not
translated.
It is not invented. It is just like, you know, like the wind comes from the sea to the balcony because the rocks get heated from the sun more than the water, okay, in the morning. The rocks get heated by the sun. So the air above the rocks starts to rise.
Madonna of the rocks.
It's stupid, no? It's again what I call shouts.
We must make some humor in discussion,
okay,
not only seriousness.
But this is the difference. If it is humor that is arising out of the meaning what we are talking about, if you would make a joke about the rocks, or real rocks, then it could be, you know, a joke. But if you take Madonna on the rocks, which is from completely different realm, I don't even know what it is.
Leonardo da Vinci.
It is something like, and then it doesn't have to do anything with the circulation of warm air and cold air. It is like a child that is bored because it does not get pudding. So it shouts more pudding. You are shouting now more pudding, basically. Because in your childhood, there were no parents or brothers.
So you want to say that I am boring of this, what you are saying, and adding something jokes.
Well, you don't understand it, and like a child, you want to get away from it.
No, I understand everything. Just I am here for, as I'm calling what I believe. For example, I want to open your mind. Maybe you will believe what I believe. You know, that is what I was asking you these questions.
Okay, so I explained to you.
I'm not here to do underestimate you.
I explained to you the scientific answer to the question, what was there before Earth, is galactic dust, okay, circling around the sun. So you have your answer. Nobody...
No, that's not the answer. We go back again. What was before that explosion? Always back. This is the very intellectual question. Go back,
No.
back,
This is the archetypal childish question.
No, it's not a childish
It
question.
is the archetypal...
Child, they will never ask that question.
Yes,
Child.
they do it. They do.
No, this is not has anything to do with the child question. What are you? You are underestimating my question comparing with the child.
Yeah, because the children do this.
No.
When the father says, we shall go to the garden. And what was there before the garden? Oh, there was a field. Because we bought this house and there was a field and we had to make the garden. Okay, and what was there before the field?
No, these are not questions of the children. Come on, Pavel.
These are children questions.
Children will never ask that, small children. What was there before? But kids will ask something else. Why we are going there? Let's go play something else. And this is question for
Okay,
the children.
did you live with children?
Huh?
Did you live with children?
Yes, I know many children. I lived with many children.
Okay, so I lived also with many children and very small children, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and not only one day, so for years.
Okay.
And I know what they ask.
Isn't it intelligent children?
They ask the same questions. So if you go scientifically before the dust, you go to the so-called Big Bang today, no? And if you go beyond the Big Bang, you go to a theory of contracting and expanding universes, and then it becomes all a fairy tale, because nobody can actually make a reasonable observation, because this is like 20 billion years ago, and there's a limit of human imagination, so this is a pure speculation, okay? But what we say as philosophers, that there is nobody, even 100 billions of years, there is nobody or no metaphysical entity, as we call it, even before the creation. It is not a creation, we do not call it creation.
What, nobody? Go back.
There is no metaphysical entity with willpower which could make something to become. It all becomes by itself. It is...
How?
Huh?
By accident.
What accident?
Everything happened by accident. This all become by itself.
Not by accident, by necessity of cosmic and natural laws. Because as I told you, if you jump from this balcony, you will fall down.
And now we came to the subject of my question. We come back to that moment. Now we are talking about that. Now. The logic of me thinking.
Necessity of cosmic and natural principles. They are not called laws. We must not call them laws, because laws is a trap. The word laws exists in the grammar of English language, like having a meaning. If there is a law, there must be a lawgiver. And this is exactly what I mean. People who use the word law, cosmic law, they are apt, that they are in danger of thinking there must be a lawgiver, because the grammar of the language asks for it. Okay, so this is what Nietzsche means. We shall not. Nietzsche has a famous sentence which says, "We shall not get rid of God until we get rid of grammar." And this is exactly what he meant by orgiastic thinking. Orgiastic thinking would be a thinking which is exploding the grammar, which does not use the grammar of the mother tongue, which is basically poetry, which is basically a vision, ecstatic vision supported by music, né? And dance, Dionysic. And that's why I said when Nietzsche would have an MP3 recorder like I have Sony, né? He would play piano because he was a good piano player. And he would get into a musical ecstasy. And then he would have visions, feelings, emotions, and images, and he would describe them. He would talk about them in words. He would not sit down at the table, take a pen, and start to write sentences from left to right, because immediately when you start doing it, you become linear. This is a line from left to right in your notebook, and then you use one word like universe, and immediately around this word universe, the grammar of the language opens a semantic field, what we call a syntactic and semantic field, because this word is in a system of words, in a dictionary, and these words are in a system of connections. The verbs, all verbs are in a dictionary. Say, exists. Okay, if you look a word in a dictionary, to exist, then it's it is a verb denoting, explaining the being of something. Okay, and you already have the semantic field. If there is existence, there must be something which exists. Okay, and this something you think about as an object, as a noun, and this leads you on and on until you are in the labyrinth of concepts which have their existence only in the dictionary and in the grammar. And this is terrible, and Nietzsche realizes it because human language was used thousands of years ago, like 10,000 of years ago, when man was very primitive. Okay, but he used language to say, "Watch the tiger, the enemy is coming, I want more beer, I kill you if you don't give me more beer." This is the way language was used, nah? And then it expanded into religion and science and philosophy, but it uses the same primitive principle, give me more beer. Because there is a relation of giving.
They expanded on the religious way because they didn't have any explanation. They don't have a proof. Who built everything of this? They needed to take some responsibility because they were thinking they will be responsible for later what they did or blah 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 in this world, because everything has end in this world. That is why they are supporting their theories. There must be something intelligent, a supernatural being,
okay,
above everything. It stays
okay,
there. It will always there.
The third example of non-philosophical argument, I was talking about the influence of grammar and syntax on thinking, and explaining why the words we use have semantic fields and syntactic fields that are in the grammar and dictionary, and this is something from which we cannot escape because we think in words and sentences. You cannot escape it. Even now, if you put your unphilosophical questions, you are using language. And Nietzsche realized this very much and said, if we do not get rid of this corset of grammar and syntax, we shall never get rid of God and ideology and ideas and metaphysics, because it is.
You want to say we should never get rid of something what we think and believe that doesn't exist. Not if you say we should never get rid of God, then you know that God exists, but we want to get rid of him. But you want to say
Now
we want to get. Okay.
So
Let me repeat this question. It has to be memorized. This question, yeah. You said before that I asked you the question, and you said that is non-philosophical question.
Yeah.
So, could it be possible that philosophers at the universities, they protect their own inventions, beliefs, intellectual opinions with this phrase of they say this is non-philosophical question because they're protecting their own intellectual opinion, because these are the provocative questions for them to destroy their own theories about the world, about existence. You know,
don't get excited.
These are the questions about. I'm asking the question that very strong questions. It is an attack on the philosophical opinion, like Nietzsche, like other philosophers.
No, okay, so this is certainly the case. There are many university philosophers who don't want to discuss basic questions, so they push you away by saying this is not philosophical. But these are not the people Nietzsche is interested in. Nietzsche was for 10 years a university teacher, and then he ran away because he realized this is not his world, and he criticized very strongly university philosophers for being nothing better than ideologues or religious teachers. No? This is certainly.
What's your
99% of all university teachers in philosophy, according to Nietzsche, are still preachers of religion. They don't understand the deep problems of thinking. And we have been talking about the deep problems of thinking, which is the dependence of thinking on grammar of language. So, my opinion is correct when then I say this is an unphilosophical question in the sense of Nietzsche. Okay, I'm not talking about the university professors; they are not interesting for me. There is maybe today in the whole Western world, they may be like 20 to 50 people who understand what I am talking about. No? I have found few of them on the internet discussions, like 3 or 5 I have found so far. And so it is reasonable to suppose that there are more of them which I don't know, but there are very few even today. Okay, so talking about the grammar, dependence of language and thinking, we can understand Nietzsche's idea that a new way of thinking must come in the future that is called orgiastic thinking. That is a thinking which is not reduced and limited by the grammar of language. Some writers, some very clever writers like James Joyce in the 20s of the last century were also so clever. And so they started the chapters in Finnegan's Wake like this. That
was old ancient Entish language.
No, this is nonsense. But the nonsense points out to the terrible truth that all sense is limited to the capacity of the language, of the grammar you have to think in. So if I make, like, a spontaneous variations of sounds, it's like returning to the childhood. Like children do this, nah? But the children come from different perspective. The children come from the not knowing the language and experimenting with the sound possibility of the human mouth. I mean, the pigs do not do this. Pigs do like, and the sheeps do meh, meh, meh. And this is all they can. But because our mouth is so delicate, and we have a jaw, and we have teeth, and we have a tongue, and we have lower palate and upper palate, and we have vocal cords, and we have breathing, and if we combine this all together into various positions, we can make sounds like A, E, I, O, U, B, C, D, E, and so on, and Ow, A, Wah, Wah. And out of that we create words that have meaning because a little sound is different. Like you have English words like sail, bail, fail. They sound very similar, but one sound is different. F, b, s in fail, bail, sail. And so the one different sound is capable to make the meaning of the whole word completely different. And this the pigs and the sheep cannot do. This is called phonology, the science of the sounds humans can make. Né? And that's why our language is very rich possibilities of sounds. And children come from these totally unlinguistic sounds like blah, 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 and they learn the sounds. And if when they come to the moment when they realize I can communicate about pudding, I want more pudding, they start to experiment with the sounds, like pudding, and then they have it, and then they get the pudding, and then they are satisfied because they have successfully communicated the desire of their stomach to the external world. And this is what Nietzsche points out, that we have to somehow return back, even if we are not children anymore. We are so clever, so wise. Now, a few of us, like 10 people maybe in Nietzsche's time, now 50 people in my time, on the whole planet, that the language sounds are limiting us because they correspond to the written words, and the written words correspond to the vocabulary and syntax textbooks. And as long as we are using them without knowing what is happening, we shall be slaves of this grammar. And this grammar hypnotizes us to suppose that there are creators if there is existence, if there is a word to exist. This language grammar forces you to suppose there is something that exists. And then if you use the word creation, it hypnotizes you to think that there is some creator, because it is the logic of the grammar. If you use the word law, cosmic law, then you immediately are hypnotized by the grammar of language to say, oh, when there is a law, there must be a lawgiver, somebody who made the law. Okay, and like that, a normal philosopher, a usual everyday philosopher, and even the very clever people at the university, and all preachers in all churches are hypnotized by the grammar of their language, and they see and they think about processes, about lawgivers, about creators, about atoms, about cause and effect, about quality and quantity, about before and after. So they think about space and time categories, and categories of metaphysical entities that can do something, that have willpower. Simply because the language hypnotizes them to do it. This has nothing to do with actual elementary world of this sea, these clouds, the wind, the sound of the guitar, the taste of the pudding, the sound of the birds. This all is non-linguistic. It is phenomenal. It is to be heard, it is to be felt, it is to be seen, and that's it. And you have to stay in this world without using the words for a long time. This is what we call meditation. Okay, Zen meditation. Zen meditation is a technique to kill the language. You don't want to be enslaved by the grammar of language, okay? So another way Nietzsche was suggesting was this orgiastic thinking. I mean, you either should be totally silent and just be a Zen master and live in the continuous phenomenal perceptions without thinking, or you can enhance the semantic fields, you can open them into, fluid continuum so that they merge with one another beyond the realms of vocabulary and beyond the realms of syntax. And this is basically poetry, because poets create new language and they create new grammar. Like, you can even talk like this: I opperwood hit the opperwoodans on the planet opperwoodan. They have many opperwoodans that opperwooden every day. So you have created new substantives, new nouns, new verbs. The opperwoodan is something which is on the planet, and it's logical. Okay, and this opperwoodan, when it does something, then it opperwoodenates, ne? And like that, you relieve yourself from the burden of grammar and syntax, okay? And my way is to...
This you can put here.
My way is to play on the guitar, vibrations, and not to think about anything, just to wait until images appear. Okay. Okay, so I hope we have cleared the basic problems of language, grammar, and its relationship to thinking, and then the relationship of the thinking to philosophy, religion, science, and politics. No? Okay.
So the question is: Are we really together? We have to live in harmony with the animals because we are intellectual beings. And look at these animals, for example, sheeps. They are eating the grass, having sex, but we are thinking about them, about everything. Oh, they don't think, they don't care. So are we for this world, or we are not for this world? We're just here.
Yes, we are completely from this world, like the sheep eat and run, and so, and then the evolution goes on. It does not stop with the sheep. It goes on to other animals, and it goes to a special animal which then suddenly develops the ability to represent the world in symbols, in the caves. The old men, they have painted the sheep in the cave on the wall so that they can maybe throw stones on them to train for hunting or to worship the big sheep or the goat or the bull. So a certain animal suddenly develops the ability to represent the world in paintings in the caves, then to represent the world in sounds, because as they were throwing the stones on the painting on the rock, they were doing like "Hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya." And then they say, okay, let's call it Haisa. Okay, this painting on the wall. And then they call it Hoisas. And then they one day say, look at the painting and say, I cannot eat this Hoisa. And I mean, they don't say the complete sentence. They have a kind of hungry stomach, ne? And they push the other guy in the cave and says, in quote, ne?
Okay, Mr. Pavel.
Let's get the real Hoisa.
Mr. Pavel, I realize after everything that still you are a good man, and I will give you allowance Bestätigung for Offenabteilung. Is that enough? Is that enough for you? Geschlossen is too much, huh? Geschlossen is too much.
So we have the force. The listener must realize that this is a methodological presentation of philosophical and religious discussion in opposition to each other. And you have a fourth instance of disturbing the argument by jumping into a completely different domain, which we call domains. This is what a teacher of logical propaedeutic would tell you. If you want to study philosophy, okay, he would talk to you for half an hour or 20 minutes, and he would realize you are jumping completely from one subject to the other. And he says, no, you cannot study philosophy because you cannot keep to the same domain. You have to keep to the same domain and come to a conclusion. And either you have to bring such solid arguments that your partner says, okay, you have a better opinion than
I just entered your domain.
Okay, you can bring better arguments, or you have to continue with your weaker arguments.
But what if those arguments you don't like?
And then, let me finish, if you have what the philosophers must have, this is intellectual consciousness. That is, you have to be ready to refute your ideas if you listen, if you get better philosophical arguments. That is, if you are a real philosopher, you want to develop, you want to go beyond yourself, you want to get more wisdom. And the only way is to have weak ideas and present your weak ideas to somebody who has stronger ideas. And then listen intently with your desire to develop, and then you come to the conclusion, yes, I had weak ideas, I didn't know, so please, I thank you very much. Here you have your golden whatever plates, or here you have your eggs and oranges, and I will serve you for another 2 weeks. Thank you for your wisdom. Okay, yeah. I will now teach your wisdom because you have better arguments. There are two possibilities. But if you say suddenly, you stand up and say, "Oh, my goats are away from."
Or look at this ships. There, I
understand.
Okay. They are pirates now.
Then
they have a fight.
Then you are not qualified for philosophical discussion yet. You must learn the rules. And in old times, the master of the school would make like this, nah? And 2 very strong slaves from Namibia would come. They would get hold of you and throw you on the garbage in front of the academy, nah? So that you realize it by the pain which you receive by falling down into the garbage and are thrown out of the academy, that you have done something wrong. Today, in the universities, both the professors and the students talk basically whatever they want. and there's endless, and nobody stops them. Okay, so there is a degeneration of the philosophical discussion because nobody keeps to logical rules. Now that you have to stay in the same domain if there is an argument, and then you have two possibilities. Either you bring better arguments, and then the other side, when it has intellectual consciousness, will say, okay, thank you very much, I was wrong. Thank you very much. Or you have weak arguments, and then you have to do the same. You say, oh, thank you very much, I had wrong and weak arguments. And then stop. Then it's a conclusion, and then the discussion is finished in a philosophical proper sense. And you don't talk about it anymore. If the next morning in the discussion, in the academia, the guy who yesterday said, thank you very much, I was wrong, if he brings the same argument again in the wrong way, then again the master does this. The big guys from Namibia come, get hold of him, and throw him out again, because he repeats the same mistake. And like that, he will learn. After sometimes, when he does it every day, then one day they don't let him in. The big guys stand in front of the academy, say, no, you go to...
You them online again to discuss. They don't have to come.
You go home and you stay with your sheep, please. Né? You understand only the simple things. You don't come here anymore.
Like that they will do with me, huh?
If you behave like this, they would do it with you, yeah? Or they would tell you, go to the church. Go and pray to some gods. This is your place, no? Okay.
They will not allow him to destroy.
Okay, so you see the deep importance of studying linguistics. Everybody who wants to make a table like a craftsman, no? He studies the wood. He knows what kind of wood he uses for his tables. And he studies his instruments. He knows what is a knife, what is a saw, what is a drilling machine, and so on. And then he makes the table properly. The same applies for thinking. If you want to think properly, you have to study the instrument of thinking. What is the instrument of thinking? It's the language. And what discipline do study the language? No, linguistics. And what are the parts of linguistics? The science of the sounds, phonology, the science of the combination of sounds into meaningful units. Yeah. It is morphology. The science of meaning of the combined units, from the minimum meaningful units in the larger units. It is lexicology, the science of putting one meaningful unit after the another to create sentences. This is lexicology, okay? And the science of larger parts of meaning. If there is a sentence and another sentence, then there is a paragraph, there is a page of a book, and then you want to know what is this about, the text, what is this about, the meaning of large units. It's semiology.
The real philosophical meaning of life.
Okay,
the philosopher. I'm going to say something.
Everybody who wants to take part in a meaningful philosophical discussion has to spend at least 4 years in the study of linguistics. Okay, and all great philosophers were doing this. Nietzsche was a philologist, which is an old name for linguist. He was teaching linguistics for 10 years at the University of Basel. Heidegger also talks about the huge importance of language for thinking. Ludwig Klages, my favorite philosopher, has even a big book which is called Speech as the Source of Sprache als Quelle der Seelenkunde, speech as the source of knowing the soul. If you want to know the soul, if you want to know the experiences of the soul in the world of human beings, you have to study their language, because the language is the door.
Can I say something before?
You can say something, and I will.
But philosophy of the real philosophy of the life of the understanding of life from the philosophers is to be a free man, not to be submitted to something or to someone. To be a free man, to think free, not be in the prison of your mind. To be free. It's like that.
Okay, if you have a question, if you say, "Can I ask something?" then you must formulate a question. You cannot simply start talking like you were talking with yourself and then say at the end, "Is it like that?" Because it's nonsense. You have to make a question, and a question has a beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay? And it is a clear question, so make your question.
So I'm not here for opinion, I'm here for the question.
Okay, then make a question. You didn't make a question, you were talking to yourself.
So you don't allow me to, you don't allow for me to explain it. You just want me to give you the questions.
You give me the question.
You don't want to listen about what I say, anything, my opinion, huh?
I mean, you can put your opinions
after you finish.
You can put your opinions into a question, but it must be a question. You didn't put a question. You started to talk about what you think.
Ah, okay, I understand what you want. What is the meaning? What is the meaning of the philosophical way of life? Then I gave the answer. Then
okay.
the meaning is to be a free man, not submitted to anything. To think freely, to be not a slave like that.
So we have to put another methodological rule for proper philosophical discussion. If somebody puts a question and the question is not clear, then the other person has to reformulate the question so that it is clear, and then ask the other person, "Are you asking this?" So your question should be like this: what is the meaning of philosophical life? Is it the question?
Like that, yeah.
Yes? Mm-hmm. You say yes.
Yes.
Okay, now we are sure that you are asking something.
Yes, master.
Okay, so what is the meaning of philosophical life? It's a question.
The good question.
It is a question first, and then it has words in it. No? It has words in it, and it asks about the meaning of something. Okay, so the grammar of the language forces us to think that if there is a something, it must have a meaning. If we are talking philosophy, all words, all actions must have a meaning. That is the grammatical structure. Okay, now you understand this, that your question was formulated by the grammar of the English language. So the meaning of philosophical life is a philosophical life. This is the simplest answer, because behind the two words, philosophical life, very many variations can be put. Like, there are so many philosophers, no? There were thousands of philosophers, thousands of philosophical schools, and they all had different meaning for their life. No? So there is no one meaning for philosophical life. There are thousands of meanings for thousands of philosophical lives. No? Okay? Is it good answer?
Not complete.
And then ask another question.
How can I formulate the question about what I was saying?
You have to improve your question. You have to narrow your question. Like if you ask, what is...
Okay, let me do it. Is it the philosophical way of life that a human being should be free not to submit it to something or someone like God or something?
Yes.
That is the question.
Okay, let us reformulate the questions once more. Is it the meaning of, now question mark, we must put a special qualification. Is it the meaning of a real, authentic philosophical life not to be subjugated by any ideas, any religions, any ideologies? Okay. Question mark. Is it the question?
Yes.
Then the answer is yes.
Finally, that's the question.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you should listen tentatively, closely to the answer. You must not get over.
So it is not allowed to give opinion while you are talking.
No, this is
question.
this is impolite. To disturb a philosopher when he is thinking is impolite. You should listen exactly to the answer. The answer is the repetition of the question. The answer is the meaning of an authentic, true philosophical life is not to be subjugated to any ideology, religion, or set of ideas, of arbitrary ideas, okay? Full stop. Okay? It doesn't say that the meaning of true philosophical authentic life is to be free from true philosophical life. No? Okay, understand? There is something you always have to follow. You cannot be without any rules, because then you do not live. Okay? Because the system of life has necessities. You have to eat, you have to breathe, you have to metabolize, you have to sleep, and so on. If you don't do it, you are dead. Okay? Especially the other way around. Human bodies which do not do this, which do not show signs of metabolism, breathing, heartbeat, and so on, we describe as dead. And they are out of life. They have nothing to say about life. In the same way, philosophers who do not display signs of authentic philosophical life are not philosophers. Okay? Finito. You cannot be just, like running around wild like, like an animal and say, I am a philosopher because I am free from all constrictions of thinking. You are an animal then. Okay? So this is not easy. The only way out is go back to school.
The question.
4 years of linguistics, 20 years of philosophy, and the good teachers. This is the only way out.
The question.
Question.
Yeah. Why are the believers are not also a different type of philosophers?
Okay. We reformulate the question.
I can't reformulate the question.
We reformulate the question so that we are sure what we are talking about. Why are religious peoples not thinking like...
Where did you get this shirt? This is Faces Cop Morris. My Miles 2017. Tennis.
Okay. Why are the religious thinkers not thinking like philosophers? Okay? Is it the question?
No. The question is, why the believers in God
Yeah.
Why are they not different type of philosophers from your type of philosophers?
Okay,
They are not philosophers at all. They are stupid.
okay, because this is the same question as why are the apples not chairs? Okay. Why are the apples not a different kind of chairs?
No, you are making now the huge difference from the people who believe in God
Okay.
and who don't believe are philosophers.
Okay.
You're protecting philosopher view.
Okay, I told you because this is a category jump. Because believing is not the way philosophy is done. Believing is illogical. Okay? It is not logical. If you would apply the rules of logic on the system of beliefs, then it is all nonsense. Because you cannot prove any one of them. You cannot prove the Ten Commandments. You cannot prove any sentence in the Quran or in the Bible by logical principles. You have to.
The problem is if you can prove it, then it is not enough to believe. You have to and work for someone, be a slave of him to please him.
Okay, so now you are again jumping. The difference is believing is its own category. It is like swimming, ne? It is like swimming. If you say, why is swimming not a different type of playing tennis? I say, because it's completely different. Okay? That's why believing is completely different from real, authentic philosophical thinking. There are, as I told you, and there were thousands of philosophers who think not authentically, not logically. They think in the same way as the believers. That's why Nietzsche calls them teachers of good sleep in Zarathustra.
After you finish, I have last question, okay?
They teach at the universities how to sleep well, make 10 good deeds for a day, and then sleep well. Okay, the most teachers of philosophy are not actual philosophers. They are simply historians of philosophy, and they repeat what other philosophers have said, and they want to have good money and go for lunch and get regular pay. They are the same quality as religious teachers. No? They teach a dogma, okay? But the real philosophers, authentic philosophers like Nietzsche, Heidegger, Klages, and others, are like tennis players compared with the swimmers. The swimmers are the believers, and the tennis players are the real philosophers.
Yeah, crazy philosophers.
They are completely different. Okay.
Okay, the last question. The last question is for the Grandmaster Pavel.
The Grandmaster.
From the guy Semir who swimming in the pool now, asking him, does he, Semir, as a Muslim believer, Muslim philosopher, is he for Pavel's opinion, does he belongs to geschlossene or offene Abteilung?
Yes. Well, he doesn't belong anywhere. He is already there. He is already there in the offenen Abteilung. As everybody is.
To be already there doesn't mean where I belong. Offene or geschlossene, where I am.
Offene.
Offene. Also offene.
All.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this was a peaceful discuss without any fight.
Discussion.
Peaceful discussion. Pavel is also my English corrector teacher. He's
okay.
This guy is also.
Okay. So we finish this, but I have to have the last word, naturally.
Of course, master.
The master has to have the last word.
You forgot to play the guitar.
Yes, because I was taking off my t-shirt. It's very hot now. On the balcony of Atlantis, we had this discussion about philosophy and religion, about linguistics, and I hope you have noted down the important message. The last question was, where do religious people belong? In geschlossene Abteilung, which is the German word for a restricted area in a psychiatric institute, or in offene Abteilung, which is an open open part of the clinic, so that you can come in and you can go away and you are not dangerous. Okay, and as Nietzsche has even formulated in Zarathustra, I walk through the cities of man like through a madhouse. Because for him, all people in the cities mainly, they live in artificial illusions that are supported by the grammar of language. And they talk about things that do not exist. They describe processes that they only imagine, and so on. And they get into trouble. And they fight because of ideology, because of religion, and they develop destructive weapons and so on. They are all patients in a huge psychiatric clinic, which is the whole planet. Okay. The farmer is coming. The farmer is bringing food to the goats, to the sheep. And that's why his idea, his desire was to get beyond the man who is, mad. For him, the human beings are all slightly crazy. Some of them seriously crazy. Seriously crazy belong to a constriction, also to the closed apartment, part of the psychiatric clinic. And that's why he goes and has this vision of overman, something beyond man. He says the man in Zarathustra is a rope that is stretched between the ape and overman, the future man. And the future man should be the meaning and is the meaning of the earth. We should say, let us make overman. And he asks, what did you done to overcome man? What did you do so that the overman is possible? And what Nietzsche did is to show the way and show the main obstacles. This is the thinking in concepts. This is the constriction of language, of grammar, which is the meaning of the sentence, if we do not get rid of grammar, we shall not get rid of ideology, of God, of many gods, of all the nonsense that is talking about nouns, that's supposedly to name entities somewhere in different worlds beyond this world. If we do not get rid of adverbs that are supposed to denote qualities of independent things, like there was a thing by itself and it would be either warm or cold or small, whereas the truth is there is a flux of qualities that change one into each other in time, and there is no thing in itself. If we do not get rid of nouns which hypnotize us to believe there must be an agent of the action, and there must be somebody who receives the action, like opening. If there is a verb opening, then somebody is the opening agent, and something gets open, okay, and so on and so on. If we do not get beyond this, we will be forever circulating in illusions that are created and pressed upon our thinking ability by the grammar of our mother tongues now. If we want to have a taste of a different way of thinking, then we have to change the language drastically. We have to start learning the grammar like of Hopi Indians, no? Or of Chinese, or of some tribe in the Amazon. But not only to sit in the book, but go there and live with them, and talk like them, and feel like them, and experience the world like them. And then they will suddenly see that, like, syntactical structures that we use to describe something like I put a bottle on the table now, similar syntactical structures are used for something completely different, to describe, like, the clouds are no more there. I mean, I experienced it by studying the Hopi grammar. The one example which is pregnant is that if you study Hopi, what did Sapir and Worf did it, no? The determination thesis. No? They discovered that there is no morphological category of time attached to those meaningful units of Hopi speech that denote the time, the past, the present, and the future. Like we say, I'm sitting, I will sit, I was sitting, or other languages, ich spreche, ich sprach, ich werde sprechen, ich habe gesprochen, I shall have read this book for 2 weeks when you arrive at home. These are all morphological changes on the one verb speak, okay, or sit in English and German, which denote the time of the action. Ne? Was it yesterday? Shall it come? And so on. Whereas in Hopi there is nothing like that. You use all the time the same form, same morphological form to denote the process of sitting or speaking. So the idea was then the linguist and the ethnologist who lived there with them and so asked themselves, do these Hopi people actually experience time? Can they talk about what was yesterday and what will come tomorrow? And he tries to talk about what was yesterday when he was not there. And he realizes, yes, they can talk about it. How do they do it? How do they express the meaning of time in their language? And he looks once again, slowly and painstakingly, for many weeks. He notes down the sounds of the sentences that describe the action. I was hunting yesterday. I am hunting now. Let us hunt tomorrow, and so and so and so on. And the water is no more here. We need water. Will you get water tomorrow, and so on. And then he discovers that all meaningful units that name objects like jungle or horses or water or sun, stones, peyote, whatever they have, they have different morphological endings. And if he compares that, the sentences would describe past events, and it compares the morphological endings of those meaningful units which describe the objects, then he suddenly sees that it's always the same ending. So the category of the past is marked, this is called a marker in linguistics, by a special ending, let us call it X, on all nouns. If I look at this rock, I can say rock X. If I look at the sky, I say sky X. If I look at the ship, ship X. And it all means the ship exists in the past. Okay. Then there is similar ending for the present, but different. Epsilon. Rock epsilon, water epsilon, sky epsilon, ship epsilon are used when we talk about these entities now. I see the ships, I go on the rock and so on. And naturally there is a category of the future which is marked by a morphological unit meaning the future, and it has a phonological sound, let us say Z. Ne? So you have a ship Z, water Z, sky Z, and then you can form a sentence: the ship will come from the sky tomorrow, and it will be the ship Z coming, sky Z, tomorrow Z. The verb coming will be in infinitive. It will be in an undefined, undifferentiated form which is common to all time. If you say the ship arrived yesterday from the horizon, you say we have the ending for yesterday was X. Ne? Ship X arrive, horizon X, XXXX, because maybe the word yesterday will be a stress on this marker of the past. So the sound of the word yesterday could be XXXX, okay, 3 times the marker. Well then, and he has the explanation how to talk about the category of time. And then he goes on and on and on, he speculates, because the markers are qualities in linguistics that can be strong or they can be weak. Some markers are compulsory, must be there all the time. Some markers are weak, they can have exceptions. Like irregular verb, I go, I went, is a completely different shape. It is not I goed, which would be the regular form in ed for the past in English. So it's a strong marker because it is 100% the same always in all entities, on all words of that denote objects. And then he somehow becomes more investigative and tries to get behind the weakness or strongness of comparison. If you take X, Y, Z, past, present and future markers, how do the people that speak that language, how do they feel them? What is the intensity of these markers? And he discovers that which is coming from the future is experienced as the strongest. This marker Z is stronger than the marker X in the subjective experience of the speaker. And the weakest marker is the marker X of the past. So the general phenomenal experience of time in Hopi speakers is that the future is as if rolling like an avalanche. Okay, the time is rolling from the future, it is predetermined, it will run through us and it will evaporate in the past. Okay. And then you can ask yourself, well, what kind of mathematics, what kind of physics, what kind of philosophy, what kind of moral teaching and religion will become due to this determination of Hoppe grammar. Okay, but they didn't have the grammar. The Hoppe didn't think about the grammar. I mean, it was the American linguists who had to analyze it now, because we are analyzers. The West Europeans are analyzers. So I conclude with this: there are two ways, or three ways, of getting rid of metaphysics. First, you understand it. It is already that you know that you're talking nonsense if you do not reflect what you are talking about and how you create your sentences. That is, you study linguistics at the university level for 4 years and shut up until you are through, okay? Or after that, you study great philosophers who did this before you. Nietzsche did it for 15 years, okay? So realize this, no? And study then his conclusions from it. You study Nietzsche. And you study also the foreign grammars like Hoppe, Chinese, Algonquin, some jungle, Amazon languages, okay? Or you become an ecstatic, like Terence McKenna. You take no less than 5 grams of DMT. It's as Terence McKenna suggested, because he said people don't take enough. And then you are totally away from structure, grammar. And as interestingly enough, Terence McKenna has described these linguistic balls when he, in his intoxication with the plant drug, DMT, he breaks through to the realm beyond grammar, beyond the limitation of causality and grammar and identity. Then he describes linguistic balls, like basketballs that come to him and irradiate happiness and pleasure and interest, and they are covered with images, visual imagery that is flowing and changing constantly, and this is his new grammar, okay? And you are completely out of normal realm, nah? And then you come back, if you are lucky, if you not get crazy, because we do not recommend this way of DMT and other drugs to nobody unless they go first through the rigorous study of linguistic and philosophy and psychology and listen intently to the message of Terence McKenna at least for 10 days. No? We do not recommend. And if there's somebody is going on the trip, he should have friends who guard him, who can help him, who can secure him if he gets totally out of control. No? But it is a dangerous way, and it has been done by those who either were prepared for it after 20 years of training, no? And they may have discovered real secrets, no? Which the humans will never know by normal approach. And it was done by crazy guys who were impatient, and they take drugs without preparations and without, guardian friends, and they became completely crazy, okay?